Good morning, fellow porch pickers. My name is Matt Johnson. Welcome to another edition of Porch Pickin. I already said that name, I think. Today, we're going to go over something completely boring today. That is probably going to put you to sleep, but I want you to try to stay awake long enough because it's really important, I think, as you're learning the banjo, going over the banjo, trying to figure out what all this means. What's the deal with it? What makes a C chord a C chord, a G, a D, or an A? What makes up all that? Well, one word: scales. You got your major scales, you got your minor scales, you got your chromatic scales. Now, chromatic scale is a scale that goes up in nothing but half steps, all the way up to the 12th fret on your, if we're focusing on banjo. It's in half steps all the way up until you get to the higher octave on the 12th fret. So we're starting on D, E flat, E, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D. Chromatic scale in half steps. Today, I actually printed out some stuff that I hope is going to give you kind of a visual representation of what your fretboard looks like and how to deal with scales and use them to help you in different, playing in different keys and how to figure it out and just memorize these scales to where this fretboard makes sense to you. There's patterns there. There's notes. There are notes behind the frets. We're not just, I guess we are, we're kind of just matching down to get different sounds, different pitches, but there are notes being played there. Notes of the scales. So without further ado, I got 15, 16 minutes here, and I got a whole lot to try to cram at you. So get out the pen and paper, take some notes, and I want to tell you now, it's been some years since I have studied scales, and it's been about 20-something years. So I might be a little foggy brain when it comes to that, but I printed them out, so hopefully you and I can both figure it out together as it's laid out. So without any further ado, I'm going to pan you over to that corner of the room, and I'm going to have to turn this fan off because this paper's going to blow back and forth. So we're going to put our banjos down and just use it as a visual representation for right. Oh, we won't need our banjos for the next few minutes, so that's what I'm trying to say. And just kind of look. It's the point where I start playing teacher and get up to the chalkboard and show y'all. So I'm panning y'all up. Okay, so right now you're looking at a visual map of your fretboard right now. As we're looking at the banjo, we got the 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st string. The nut right here, this is what we're tuned to right now, open G tuning. You see the notes, D, G, B, D. Now there was some other scales here, but I kind of blocked them out so it wouldn't be as confusing in the presentation. I had a pen that I was using as a pointer, and boy, if I don't remember exactly where that went. Right now I'm getting in the way of the light. How come I'm never as prepared? Oh, in my pocket this entire time. So we got the 4th string tuned to a D, the 3rd string tuned to a G, 2nd string tuned to a B, and we got the 1st string tuned to a D. That is the notes within the G major scale. Each chord is made up of notes within the selected scale. Now take a look here at each note on each fret. These represent your fret numbers, and it goes all the way up to the 12th fret. I'm trying not to get my hand in the light. I had to use a flashlight to kind of, just the side of the room is kind of dark. So I'm trying to but that's your 12th, all the way up to your 12th fret, all the way up. So, I gotta turn the fan off, it's getting warm. But anyway, so take a look, visualize this, and I'm gonna tell you, this is what I see every time I look at my fretboard. I visualize this, not this particular thing, but I do see, each fret representing a certain note on a scale. Now, the next thing, let me bring it over. This is your chromatic. Here, this is going to be your major scale chart. Let me bring y'all down to where you can see. Hopefully I can bring you into the major scales. This camera's backwards, so this is the visualization of all your scales. This is your major scales. Flats, and naturals. You got your F major scale. Now you see something here. The notes, the number of the notes at which they fall in that scale. You notice the first note, let's say if you're playing in a C scale, well, that's your C. It's starting on your C. That is your root note. Here's your fourth and fifth. Now, we've been talking about 1, 4, 5 chord progression since Porch Pickin began. This kind of gives you a visual representation of what I've been talking about. Your first, fourth, and fifth notes of that major scale make up the chords, 1, 4, 5 chord progression of a certain song. Most of your bluegrass, most of your country, and a couple other songs out there deal with the 3 chords, the 1, 4, 5 chord progression. Like here, we've played a key of G sometimes. So here's G, B, or G, C, and D. Now that's a little bit low. Let me try to pan just a slightly bit more. Hopefully I get all of it in there. Can y'all see? I can't see, everything's upside down right now, so forgive me. So we got G, C, and D. Those are our chord progressions and have been since we started Porch Pickin. 1, 4, 5. Now, when you're dealing with chords, though, and you're making up the chords, it goes a little bit different. You're using the first, third, and fifth notes of that particular scale. I'm hoping this is making sense to you. I'm trying to explain it the best I can. We'll see G, B, and D, because we already know that our banjos are tuned to a D, G, B, D. So first, third, and fourth notes. So what if we want to play the F in the key of F? What would our 1, 4, 5 chord progression be? Well, that'll be F, B flat, and C. Now, even if you're in a major scale, I want you to take note. Even if you're in a major scale, not all these notes are going to be played, are going to be natural or major notes. There are going to be some flats sometimes. F, B flat, and C is your 1, 4, 5 chord progression in the key of F. In the key of G and the key of D. See how these scale charts and scales help you out, figure out different things, different chord progressions in each. This will help you out there in jam sessions. Like if somebody yells out, "Hey, we're playing Mountain Dew, key of A." Well, how would you knowing your scales and stuff, you'll be able to determine, well, the 1, 4, 5 chord progression in the key of A is A, D, and E. And you're not seeing that right now. Let me pan that camera down. This paper's really long. A, D, and E. 1, 4, 5. Now, if we come back up to another cool thing with scales, we come back over to the chromatic scale. You can also use this to help you find chord structures, to help you figure out the fingerings of the chords. How? Well, let's take a look at it. Let me put this where there you go. That paper's actually even now. Now let's take a look at this. Again, we're using this as a visual representation of our fretboard right now. Say we want to play the C chord. How would we find the C chord? Well, if we pan back over to our major chord chart here, we'll find a C major. Now let's find that C major right about there, right? C major. Well, our notes for that chord are C, E, and G. So we're going to come over here to our beloved fretboard now, and we're going to find the notes. Okay, how to figure out these chord fingerings. It's pretty simple. This way you kind of see how it all kind of makes sense, how it all falls together within a pattern of each other with all these scales. This is why it's important to study these. We're going to come around here, and this, I think on banjos they consider it to be first position and multiple positions on a fretboard. I always stay between the first 7 frets of the banjo. Have always done that. That's where I'm just more comfortable. Never questioned it, so that's where I play. So we're going to come up here around this area here and try to find our root note, which is the C. Do y'all see it anywhere? Where is our root note? Right here, C. So that's, again, is on the first fret, 2nd string. That's C. Now we need to figure out E and G now. We got the first one. Now we need to figure out the other 2 notes of the C chord. So we already know C, E, and G in the C major scale make up the C chord. So now we find our G, which is, we're going to leave that open. This here at the nut is open, so we don't have to mash him down. We're already given a G right there. So we have our 2 notes now, C and G. Okay? Now, we need to find our 3rd note, E. Well, we'll come up here chromatically. Let's take a look. We got an E right here at the 2nd fret, 1st string, right there. Well, there you go. There's your E. And then there's your E there at the 2nd fret, 4th string. Does that chord fingering seem familiar to you? And see how this kind of always just makes kind of sense? There you go. You can use this to kind of help you figure out chord fingerings as well. Now, let's say we want to figure out the chords for F. We want to figure out how to play an F chord. Let's go look at our scale over here. And I'll bring this up here. Probably pay him back a little further. Maybe that'll work better. And we're going to find our F right here. Here's our F. I'm sorry, right on the bottom. Everything's kind of upside down, I'm sorry. Here's our F. Well, our 1, 3, 5 notes are F, A, and C. Now, we come to our chromatic scale now. Get the camera out of that. There you go. So you can see all of it. Now we're going to come back to our chromatic now. And we need to find those notes. We need to find F, A, and C. Or CAF or ACF. As long as you find them, they're gonna be harmonizing with each other. So we come along again. Now look here. Why don't we use that C we found on the 1st fret, 2nd string? There you go. There's 1 note down. Come along here and see if you can find an A. Well, right here. 3rd string, 2nd fret. There's your A. And now here's F. We got 2 of them. 3rd fret, 1st string, and a 3rd fret, 4th string. There is your F chord right there. See, there's patterns here. You got to understand each note on your frets. And then after you learn this and you figure out that there's notes on each fret, on each string, scales, different chromatic of each other, you'll be able to figure this stuff out. It'll come easier to you. It won't seem so Greek. So, my advice would be to find you a chord chart. Study them. I printed these off a line right here. Found this one. This particular one is, I think I found it underneath the piano major scale charts. But you can just print out any of them. I mean, scales are scales. Simplify that for you. And chromatic as well. Now, when you do your chromatic, this one just poked up, and just if you're studying like a banjo or something, you can just revise it the way I did it. That way, you always have a visual representation of your fretboard, knowing the names of each note on each fret. Because there's patterns there, and there's scales there, notes there. We're not just mashing it down, making different pitches. We're actually playing within scales and different notes. I haven't really picked up scales. I think we can add on for just a few minutes before we go here. Uh-oh. What I do? Nope. There it is. We actually, when I was in high school, we used to have tests about every few months. I don't remember much, but it would be over our scales, and that was part of our grade. We had to do scales, memorize our scales, and be proficient in them. They're very vague to me right now, but I can remember chromatic scales is the ones I remember the most of, and that's why when I look down my fretboard after each note, you know, it comes like it's what I visualize the notes, and that nature. And it actually will help you pick out your melody too. And when you get ready to do a little solo in between the verses or whatever, knowing these scales will help you out too. So print them out, study them, you print them out. They're all over the place. I've been preaching this since the beginning of Porch Pickin. And this is why. It's very important. That way you know what's going on here. So with that being said, thank you so much for clicking on, and I hope you found it kind of informative is the big word I guess I'm trying to use. And study them chords. Trust me. I know they seem like a lot of work and a lot of stuff to take in and memorize, but it's all part of it too. It's part of the basics. Not just learning the rhythm, not just learning chord shapes. You're learning scales. When we sing, we're in a certain scale. We're singing notes off the scale. We're playing notes off the scale. Just like the other night, when I did the open D tuning. Well, I tuned my banjo to a chord, just like we do with G. This is a G chord, G, B, D. The notes for the D, well, that's A, and I know, hey, have we figured this out? Start on B, C, C sharp, D, F sharp. See? D, A, D, F sharp is the notes to the D chord. So study the chord charts. Study them. It'll help you out with a whole lot of trying to figure out the notes of the chord if you're having trouble, you know, finding chord progressions, chord structures, or anything like that, or chord progressions. Like tons of my songs I get printed out, they don't have chord progressions to them, they just have lyrics. So I got to try to figure it out. But knowing chords or knowing scales help me pick out the chord progressions. Like in the key of A, you already know it's A, D, and E. Study the scales. Do it. Make that your mission for the next few days. Study scales. Go over them as you're picking the strings. Say the notes: D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D. Just like that, until the notes of the strings, the notes of the frets become part of you as well. Just like the felon strum. This won't seem so Greek to you. So until next time, thank you so much for clicking on. Goodbye. Keep playing, guys.